But like this, the spread of these doctrines, they touch, for example, geography, astronomy, history, philosophy. In short, it's a theology. In short, it's a set of sciences of knowledge that are emerging, that are opening different fronts to change people's thinking. For example, during the Middle Ages, the prevailing thought in the church was philosophy, scholasticism, the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. After modern thought entered deeply into this dimension of rationalism, of empiricism, and naturally this ended up, for example, generating the scientificist priests, for example, in the 19th century, right? Who sought to align the thought of science, for example, of modern science with the doctrine of the church, and naturally had an impact on the practice of Catholicism.
I ask you, has modern science deceived us? Has it, or has it seduced us?
Yes, because modern science is actually a false science. So, of course, not all scientists are misguided, and not everything modern science has produced is deception. But, yes, there are things that were created, that were invented, and that are maintained as truth because of propaganda. So, no one can overthrow these truths, right? Because they establish these truths. And they do a lot of propaganda so that people keep believing in that. And what is the benefit that this modern science, by spreading these false ideas, has in relation to what it proposes to do? The benefit is precisely to destroy the revelation, because they realized there was nothing stronger to discredit the authority of the church than to prove that the Bible was wrong in this or that. So they went right to the heart of the revelation, which is precisely Genesis, right? When it talks about creation, when it talks about the shape of the earth, when it talks about the way God created all things. And that's where these impacts started to emerge, as your Charity mentioned. And then, many began to defend the Bible and wanted to continue defending Catholicism, but by adapting their thinking and saying the following, that modern science is entirely correct, but that the Bible is also not wrong, because it is all figurative. So it means that what was revelation and was true simply became a figurative story.
So because you say that, right, I made sure to write it down like this, right? But in what way do the areas of... I already asked you, right? But I'll repeat it here. In what way, then, were the areas of knowledge used to shape worldviews incompatible with revelation? You explained, right, that this thinking aims to destroy revelation. So in what way has astronomy, for example, deceived, seduced, or deluded us?
In the same sense, does it mean that the biblical revelation says that God created the heavens and the earth, and modern astronomy fictitious because it's all from movies, from fiction? Right? Then they will say no, that the earth is just a little spinning ball around the sun, which in turn is part of a galaxy with millions of other galaxies, so many millions of light years away, and that we are lost there in outer space. When in fact, we look at the sky and see the same stars. There's nothing different. Everything is identical since ancient times. So you see that it's a lie what they are saying, that there is nothing about the galaxy moving, about there having been a big bang and everything is moving, everything is changing, the stars are changing, and the sun is going I don't know where. No. God created the earth as it is, immobile, and the sky above the earth, which rotates in turn around the earth. An evident thing, something that is very clear in the revelation, and that is what they started to change. Exciting kind there. This was the first focus of the movement of disintegration, actually, of the biblical revelation. It was through this project there of this false doctrine of heliocentrism, which was first established by Copernicus and later recapitulated by Galileo. And Galileo was condemned by the church precisely because of this, because the church, as Cardinal Bellarmine himself told Galileo, will never prevent the scientist from discovering truths. But one thing is to prove, another thing is to say, because I see it, because I imagine it. No.
So it's not like that. So you are not going to change the revelation because you are imagining, right? That's what Cardinal Bellarmine said to Galileo.
And even today, they are just imagining, right? Because actually, they haven't even managed to go beyond 500 kilometers or 300 kilometers upwards in altitude. They haven't managed, right? Because you can't go higher than 500 kilometers in altitude because everything there will disintegrate. And that is very little compared to the Earth's radius. So no one has ever even seen the whole Earth, right? As they claim to have seen. They simply make photos and computer-generated images and say they are there with the world spinning and that the Earth is round and such, when in fact they just go 100, 200 kilometers in altitude and take photographs and do things there. Satam. But those altitudes are not enough for you to see the entire orb of the Earth and to have an exact notion of what is happening around it. So, I mean, these are lies. They even, the man's trip to the moon, as it is often said, was a film produced in the desert there in Arizona in the United States. They made those capsules, they did those, designed all that, right? Took photos and did many things so that people would believe they really went to the moon. Then they saw it was such a blatant thing that they didn't want to do anything more in that regard, right? They forgot the project of going to the moon. But yes, many people still believe that those people really went at that time, stepped on the moon and then returned. I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable.
So the idea of having gone to the moon and the earth being round is fake.
Yeah, the earth round, yeah, it's something that was believed in the time of the Greeks because they imagined there was a circumference, a sphere. That's why the little boat disappeared in the ocean, right? They thought it was the descent of the waters that made the little boat go down and disappear from sight. I would say that this was even a scientific observation for their time. But nowadays you have telescopes, you have binoculars that can see that the little boat did not disappear. The little boat simply disappeared from our sight. But if you take the binoculars, you see that the little boat is far away and it is still there. It means that the ocean is always at the same level. There's no way to bend the water and make it curve around a sphere, right? Especially the more water you add, the harder it is to curve that water. I mean, you can't even curve a glass of water, let alone an ocean. Well, that's very easy for you to notice. If a person thinks a little, right, starts reasoning a bit, they will realize that there's no way, there's no possibility that the Earth is a sphere. It's just that this is formatted in people's minds, you know. So when you say this, people think you're crazy, that you're a person who doesn't understand, even though no one has ever seen it. No one has ever seen the curvature. Now to this day, I haven't found anyone to tell me, oh, I saw the curvature. If I found someone, I would say, wow, then let's think about this. But it doesn't exist. The truth is this. No one has ever seen a curvature. So there is no curvature. The earth is flat, completely flat. The oceans are all at the same level and they are before God. Why? Because God is above us. God is not there, as if we were on a rotating sphere, right? So where is God's reference? No. God's reference is that God is above and hell is below.
Yes, this is quite simple and it's also very clear in the scriptures.